give us kind of an update of where you think things are at for where we left off in court to where we are now. Your impressions, your thoughts, and anything that you've been piecing together so that we can have a better understanding. Then we'll open up for Q&A.
Okay. So with the filings that were filed right before the trial, I mean, it's clear this was a train wreck getting ready to happen because you had privilege conflicts that couldn't be waived. The judge was not brought up to speed on it. I was doing dailies for the Democrat. And so I talked to the editor and I said, you know, how did we get here? I said, I can do a story on it, but let me think about it, because I would have to basically say that Judge Everett missed it, that Georgia missed it, and to do a fair story. Now, Dan was 80% responsible, but Judge Everett and Georgia should have done more. They should have realized this was happening. So I wrote him back and said, I'm not fully retired yet. So as Machiavelli told the priest, when the priest said, you're going to die, you need to denounce the devil, he responded, why would I want to piss him off? So I told him I'm going to refrain, and they were okay. But Judge, I think the confusion was, if you saw a lot of what's happening, they kept asking Donna about the conflict, about whether Dan could be a witness about the trip to Vietnam, right? They were worried you're not going to be able to call Dan. So he kept asking him, you understand you're waiving the conflict? And he asked multiple times. There was never a conversation by the judge or by anybody about the conflict with Charlie. And Georgia never said anything about Charlie. No one introduced this written waiver, which didn't exist. And Dan went on Joel's show when he was confronted and said, yeah, there's a conflict, but I got it. And he goes, oh, you got it in writing? He goes, oh, yeah. He didn't have it in writing. He was just lying, making shit up. Are we allowed to say that on there?
Yes.
Okay. I get in trouble when I do some shows. I went and taught a class at UF Law School, and I said something. The dean came up. Did you really say shit in class? Like, yeah, is that not legal? What I told was really funny, because I said, the shit they teach you here is not what happens in real world. So I want you all to know that. I don't think they like that part. I don't think the shit had anything to do with it. So Judge Everett was really upset. And I kind of knew, and I told everybody inside right before it happened. They said, what's going to happen? I said, this is what's going to happen. Dan's going to finally address the court, which he should have done from the beginning. He threw Alex in there, made Alex go up there and fend for him when Alex had nothing to do with it. And I said, Dan's going to have to address the court. Judge is going to make a ruling. Then he's going to have to go in camera and interview Alex and Dan and see if Alex can stay on the case. And an in-camera meeting means that the prosecution can't be there. Only the judge can hear it. There's probably a court reporter, and it's under seal, so there's a record down the road. And he did it, and he said, for now, Alex can stay on the case. I don't think Alex wants to stay on. I think Alex is uncomfortable. But I think the limelight and maybe the money is going to lead him to do something you shouldn't do, right? You see the stars and the lights. A funny story was a week before, I was getting in the elevator, and there was Dan and Alex. And they just had the dress rehearsal for Donna. She had just tried on all these clothes, and my source said, we've never had someone try that many clothes on. What's going on here? And then I saw them later, and he said, Dan says I'm mean to him. I said, I'm not mean to him. And I said, I just said I thought you'd do better. He goes, well, I appreciate that, Tim, you know. So, but where do we go? Does Alex stay on, right? That's the question. If Alex was smart, he wouldn't stay on. But now he's kind of in, you know, like you're in the pool, you might as well swim while you're there. And I think he's probably going to ask for more money because he was just a second chair. The question is going to be who's going to help him. Because Alex doesn't know the case well enough to know. And Dan really can't be a part of it anymore. He's already done that. The bar is probably going to have to respond. He's probably going to hightail away from it. And there has to be a wall. We used to call it a Chinese wall, but not allowed to say that anymore. it's an ethics law, so that you don't taint him. But I don't know if Alex will do a good job. Alex is an ethical lawyer. He's not flamboyant, not charismatic, but he keeps going. He won't do anything that'll piss you off, like Dan did, smelling his hands.
That is hilarious that you know all that.
I mean, just watch him. He's like,
So awkward.
some of the things he did, I just couldn't believe. But, and he was way over his head. There should have been 2 lawyers on the case, right? He shouldn't do that case by himself. Georgia didn't do it by herself. There's so much to do. And then to bring in that jury consultant, that was about the dumbest thing I've ever seen a trial lawyer do in a trial. I don't know if that was his friend. I don't know if that was so he didn't have to bring in another lawyer and have to share, because I think he thought he was going to win Charlie's case. He came to me and talked to me one day for 3 hours. He swore he's going to win. And I just said, okay, good luck to you. So, but yeah, I can open the questions.
So my question is Laurel Niles. I did some research and she's
Yeah,
a fabulous constitutional.
That's
she knows her stuff.
Yeah, she's great.
She stood there and said to Judge Everett that even Alex Morris, because of a relationship, that Charlie would still be claiming Sixth Amendment rights.
They did. They did it in the motion. The judge just remember, the judge had to make a decision that day right before jury selection.
Right.
He made the right decision.
How would
And he
Alex
got rid
stay
of,
on?
just hold on.
Okay.
He got rid of the one he had to get rid of, Dan.
Right.
Dan did the right thing, made it easy for the judge. He went through. The judge is having a case management in October. The judge is going to go back and do more research, get law clerks and everybody and other judges and talk to them. And if he's not satisfied, he's going to remove Alex, because Alex is kind of starting and not going to delay.
Feel for him.
So I don't know if Alex will stay on or if the judge is going to do more findings. And maybe Jack and Georgia will realize that they have to not only prosecute, but they have to protect their prosecution. They've got to protect their trial. Otherwise, it gets overturned. And judges don't like getting overturned.
Question. I heard that Adam Commissar, that lawyer who was there for one day. Can you explain his role and your what you know about Adam?
Well, truth be told, Adam worked for me for like 6 or 7 years. So I used the past tense, worked. So I don't want to say any more at that point. So I was kind of shocked to see him in the courtroom. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Can you explain his role that day, what he was there to do?
Well, apparently he was supposed to go in and give an independent consultation, right? Like you get cancer, you go to a doctor. I'm going to get an independent doctor to look at it, see what they think. This really wasn't independent. He was looking at the thing, but then he was going to be hired to do the cross-examination, right? So he was going to get paid. So how hard do you think he convinced her not to waive? He was like, sure, it's going to be fine. I'll do the cross-examination. And he only spent 30 minutes, and he's going to be ready to cross-examine Charlie, first-degree murder trial, and he hasn't looked at anything. That's just not good. But we'll see. I don't know if he's going to get involved. I don't know.
So the first of a few questions. One is, what do you think about the fact that Dan Rashbaum on that STS interview offered up that Donna had a third-party, conflict-free attorney advising her, and then in the hearing that I was at, we were watching, when she stood up and Judge Everett asked her, have you had a conflict-free attorney consulting on this, she said no.
Not only did she say no, she didn't know where she was. She had no idea what the judge was telling her. You could tell by the look on her face. She had this blank look like, what?
So
What?
would she have had, some people then said that this question he asked her in court that day is specific about the cross-examination.
Yeah.
That was like parsed out of, so would she have had a conflict-free attorney advising her back when she signed the waiver? If she even did sign a waiver,
She didn't.
She did not?
I don't think so. Well, I don't
So
know.
he never got anything?
I've never seen the waiver.
So Rashbaum could have said, okay, as an attorney, if you think Dan Rashbaum is publicly saying on that podcast that he got signed waivers from all of these people, Charlie, Donna, Harvey, and he didn't.
He did answer the question and said he
answered
did.
that, and then he doubled down by saying, I also got them signed with a third party attorney witnessing. If he made all that up, where does he stand with the bar?
Well, I don't speak with the bar. I don't want to get involved with the bar.
Is that something that would be sanctioned?
Well, if he made that impression to the judge,
Okay.
that would be dishonest candor to the court. And if the court finds that he misled the court, then he can be disciplined. There's a specific provision of the bar, candor to the court.
Okay.
He did make them believe that he had independent consultation. She did not say she had an independent consultation. And you saw in the motion Alex filed, it made it, if you look at the motion and you read and that's what judges do, they read the four corners of the thing. It made it sound like they've already hired a lawyer. They already had a conflict person retained. And Everett asked her, when did you retain this? Oh, no, we haven't retained him yet. Oh, you didn't retain him yet. So she hasn't paid anybody yet. She hasn't gotten the independent. None of that was done. So he wasn't happy about that.
Okay, just one more question. What do you think Judge Everett talked to Dan Markel about in that camera meeting? It was brief, but that day.
Well, he's going to ask him, what steps did you take to make sure that Alex did not hear any attorney-client privilege, did not review any notes of your prepping him for trial, all that communications privilege. And that's not easy to do. Because if you're having a lawyer come in and review files, you might have some things in there that Charlie said or something. So it's really difficult to have.
Very brief meeting, yeah. It was just like
It was in and out.
It was a preliminary.
So what if he lied to Judge Everett in that in-camera meeting?
Then they would be disciplined,
Okay.
and that would be real discipline.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they did on any podcast. I don't know what they said.
I don't understand, like, having that second attorney when don't really know the case. They're not supposed to, I mean, what is the point in having that second attorney if he isn't allowed to dig into the case? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think what happens is when you have multiple attorneys on a big case, you divvy up the case. You're going to take these witnesses. I'm going to take these witnesses. I'll prepare Dan or Donna. You're going to cross these people.
Right.
And that's what your sole focus is, right? So when I asked Alex, was he ready? He said, well, the way we divided it up, I'm not really ready. I didn't look into that part. It's kind of like when we were in law school, you get a group to help and everybody does an outline for each class, right? And so you get outlines and you study them, but one may not know it as good as one does the family law. So it wasn't a surprise that Alex wasn't going to be ready.
I was looking at it differently. I didn't realize. Okay.
I don't know if I explained that
Yeah,
right, did
yeah,
I?
yeah.
Question. There were several lawyers who visited Donna in the Leon County Jail earlier this year, one being Alex Morris, another one being Robert Thomas, and another is Jenna Von C. Are you familiar with Robert Thomas and Jenna Von C? And
I don't know Jenna Von C.
Mhm.
I know Rob Thomas. He was a public defender. He might have been. I think she was interviewing lawyers.
Do you think it's possible that they could have anticipated something like this and been looking into, kind of like damage control, like a backup lawyer? Do you think he could be a possible?
That's when I think Alex, Bob,
Co-counsel.
and this person they were interviewing me to be the second for Dan. With Dan, that's when that interview took place. My understanding. They haven't done anything since then that I know of.
Do you know? I mean, I think I've heard really good things. I've heard good things about Robert Thomas. And are there any other lawyers in town? I mean, you come up on Google search as one of the top criminal defense lawyers.
She would never have me represent her. I would not represent Donna. I don't think it would be right for me to represent Donna when I've gone out and said things against her case and how strong the case is and written against him. And a Democrat asked me before I started doing articles, "You're not representing Donna." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Do you think after being passed up by Donna that Robert Thomas might come back, or do you think how does that usually work?
If she gives him enough money, he'll do it. Right. If Pete Diddy gave me $10 million, I'd be in New York tomorrow.
Okay, so we all heard Alex Morris's press conference afterwards.
Yeah.
And he's, talking about deals and whatnot. But he represents Donna, right? So if Charlie's interested in a deal, who helps him right now? Is Rashbaum dead to him now too? Like, because now, so he's like, you can't speak to Donna or Charlie. So is that his appellate attorney that helps him if he wants to make a deal, or how does Charlie go about that if he wants to do it?
Well, there's no deal made with Charlie right now. He's got an
Right.
appeal.
Right.
His lawyer right now is Michael Lufferman.
Yeah.
He's going to do the appeal, and my sources tell me that Michael Lufferman told him he has a claim of ineffective assistance of counsel against Dan,
Right.
should all of his appeal lose. So I doubt he would go back to Dan right now. And I doubt if Dan has found out that he's coming after him, I doubt he would want to represent him either.
Okay.
So Charlie's not really getting a deal. Now, Alex is going to always, hey, what's the deal? Can we talk? They'll talk. And, it was funny that Jack's press conference and his press conference kind of reminded me of the kids right before prom. Do you like Joey? And Joey likes you. He asked me to prom, will you go?
Circle one, yes or no?
Yeah, circle yes or no. And that's kind of like they were doing the little plea games, right? And so we'll see. Jack was, of course, they'll listen, but and they do not give plea offers in every case. They said that. They never gave me a plea offer in Brian Winchester's case at the beginning. They didn't give me anything.
And would you have said what Alex said in that press conference?
No.
Without talking to
No.
the client first?
No. No.
So how did you hear that?
I think he was I think the limelight's got him. The bright lights, the glitter. And I think that it's like a magnet. It's drawn him in because I don't remember seeing Alex do a lot of press things like that till after the case is over, or just do the regular blah, blah, blah. But he seemed to be jumping out ahead of it.
I may have asked you this before, but I'll ask you in the group. So at this stage where we're at right now, can Daniel Rashbaum maintain contact with Donna Adelson? So at this stage where we're at right now, can Daniel Rashbaum maintain contact with Donna Adelson as her attorney?
No.
He was representing her before on like a money stuff, or even as a friend?
No, I think he's got a conflict, and I think
Like he can't in any way contact.
if he has an ethics lawyer, he should not contact her.
What would happen if he did? Like, just checking in on you, calling to see how you're doing.
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but could he call Harvey? Maybe. Use Harvey as the broker in
Could he
between?
still represent Harvey?
He probably could. He probably could. I'm sure Harvey's calling him wanting some money back. I guarantee you. Hey, Dan, you didn't go to trial, so can we get some of that money? We got to hire another lawyer because you didn't do this, right?
So you said this to me, that you think that it's probably a flat fee.
Probably. I think it's a flat fee.
So he doesn't really have to give any money back to her.
No, that's not true.
Oh,
Flat fee could be. So criminal lawyers are different than divorce lawyers. They'll want $5,000 retainer and they're going to bill it. Divorce lawyers, they got a little secret. They keep the divorce going so they can bill more money, right? And that's why your divorce lawyer never wants to agree and I can't get a hearing, let's do this. Before you know it, you're out of a lot of money. Criminal lawyers do flat fees and we do hourly fees, pretty rare. I also do what's called an evergreen tree. So you get a flat fee and then you keep your hours. And then if the hours go above the flat fee, then you resort to a billable case. Because I had a case that took 5 years. So how do you charge someone for 5 years? Because you can't. So you get a retainer, keep your hours. If he keeps going and going, then you're billing. That's the safest way to protect you if you don't know a big case, how long it's going to take. Especially federal investigations, it can take years.
So what do you think practically? Do you think if Harvey goes after Rashbaum and wants the money back and take it to trial, do you think he'll give him, just to get him off his back, some sort of?
Hello?
Probably Steve Cohen or Joe.
No, it's not. Hey, do you want to say hello to everybody? Hello? Hello. Can I put you on speaker? Say it.
My question is this.
Yeah.
My question is.
It's showing now. Okay.
We're all the
This
influence.
is-
How could Donna's defense improve now that it's not going to be tied to extortion squared as much?
Good question.
Well, I think that she's going to do an extortion square light and claim she's going to say she knew less than what Dan knew, and that Dan really didn't tell her everything, so she didn't really realize. Because otherwise, why would she agree to have her grandkids and her daughter come near the murderers, right? That's going to be a tough question. You knew these people murdered, and you're going to let your grandkids and your daughter go near them? So she's going to say something a little, I think, she's going to try to cover that basis too.
Do you think she even says, like, I even questioned it a little bit? Like, she might even go, I'm not even, I wasn't sure.
And you see Alex says, we have a different position.
Yeah.
Our positions are against each other.
Yeah.
So
I
that
think he may
means,
have taken matters
right.
as an
and that's even the more reason why Georgia wants Charlie as a rebuttal witness.
Yeah.
What if he doesn't cooperate?
Well, they can hold him in contempt.
Can they offer him anything, like as a carrot?
They're not going to offer him anything.
Well, meaning like better, I don't know.
No.
Get out
Better
something.
self.
Now the question is, if they subpoena him, and he says, I'm not going to testify, you can hold me in contempt. Is his lawyer going to tell him to do that if he thinks he has a good chance on appeal and get a new trial? He doesn't want to get contempt and get a bunch of jail, no credit. Then does the state maybe offer some kind of deal? But, I mean, this is really complicated stuff, and stuff that really hasn't happened in my 38 years of practice. Right? Anything else fancy?
I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go back to watching. Thank you, Tim.
It is Chardonnay I'm drinking.
Hey, Fancy!
Only she would call.
I love it.
Yes.
I want to go back in time. Something that has always bothered me. How come with Katherine Magbanua, how come Tara Kawas, Krista Cox, I know you know what I'm going to ask.
But
At any point, do you ever think they said to her,
say what?
idiot, why don't you take a deal? Just
After
Katherine Magbanua, what I
I'm
said.
asking.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Katherine, at any point, I'm just seem to be bothered by this. Why didn't Tara Kawas, Krista Cost say to Katherine Magbanua, take a
Take the deal.
This may not be good for you.
You would think they did, and they're telling people now that they tried to talk and convince her to do it. But I have a hard time believing that. You know, I get clients all the time, and they're like, should I take this deal or should I not? And it's really their decision, right? But I also tell them this. I said, if you want to buy a lottery ticket, right? And if I told you that there's no winning ticket in there, would you still go in there and buy the lottery ticket? And if you would, then I can't help you. Because you're paying me for my advice and my counsel. And I'm just telling you, this plane's going down. I'm going home, and I've been paid. But we'll do what you want to do. And they usually, okay, what do you think we should do? You have to have client control. You have to tell your client what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Sometimes lawyers want to go to trial in big cases to be seen, to get paid, and make a name for themselves. Sometimes they don't do it in the best interest of the client. And so I don't know how much Katherine really didn't want to take the deal. But
I mean, this is a get out of jail free card. This is what.
it's a big, she got on the stand and said she didn't do it because of her, Sigfredo was a father of her baby, and he was on appeal. She had to know that wasn't going anywhere. Otherwise, she just was misguided.
So Tim, as a defense attorney, Katie Magbanua was your client. How would you have spoken to her to convince her to take it to court?
Same way I talked to Brian Winchester.
Which is
And I
would like to know
how
that.
your approach, your language, I mean, if you're comfortable sharing that.
Well, unlike Jack said, every case gets a plea offer. In Brian's case, we didn't get a plea offer. I'm like, hey man, what's up? This is just a kidnapping case, you know. He's got no prior record, and
Were
he's
you
like,
super familiar with the case?
I was not.
You weren't.
I really didn't know much about it, so I was not just playing dumb. I was dumb.
Okay.
And then I had to do some research, and I'm like, well, why don't we have a plea offer or something? Well, maybe he's got something to say. I'm like, what's he got to say? Well, you know, maybe something happened. Well, obviously something happened. No, something happened like 19 years ago. I'm like, well, what would that have been? So then we played this dance and song, and just like Jack did with them. And so then I figured out, and they said, well, why don't we do a proffer? And then my client did some stupid shit at the jail, and I think Hakienson was going to light him up. And I said, we probably need to take another route. We need to take the route that smokes traffic.
We need to know what that stupid shit is.
I don't want to say it. I can't say it. But he did something that came to the attention. It came to the attention of the government, and the government had a new witness on the witness list. So I talked to the prosecutor, and he says, I said, why don't you do a proffer? That's what you know. Everybody knows a proffer now means you interview somebody. So he sends me this proffer letter, and it was like horrible for my client. Gave him no protection. And it was a younger prosecutor handling that part. He goes, well, why don't you draft something up? I said, okay, I'll draft it up. We spent 2 weeks drafting this thing. It covered everything, every jurisdiction, every crime. Anything he gave them, they couldn't use against him. They couldn't make derivative use, meaning they can't take what he got. They'd have to find it all independently. And if he lied about one part, the whole thing wasn't void, only that part was.
And did you know what you had at that time when you were writing it?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. But, I mean, the first time I heard the whole story
There was something.
was a proffer. When we're in the office, and the prosecutor's mouths were open like hers. Mine was open. Could not believe what I was hearing. And so, of course, they wanted the body, right? They wanted the body. And so my guy had already been sentenced to 15 years in prison. So I said, hey, man, we want a deal for the body. So I go outside, and John about punched me. You hear what he just said? He killed him, and you want to? I said, yeah, no. I didn't give him shit. I'm like, okay. But I knew if we gave him the body, it was part of that deal, they could never introduce a body because they got it from my client. If they can't introduce a body, they can't charge him with murder because you can't say he was murdered. You don't have a body. You can't say he died naturally. So, I mean, so we got the deal. But he testified, and we got closure for the mom. We got Denise, who was the impetus for it. She was the one pushing my client, gave him a deadline because a term life policy was voiding at the end of December, so it had to be in December. And we made an offer to the state to let my client plead to second-degree murder. I said, well, he'll still plead. So the mom gets a conviction, just run the sentence concurrent with what he's got.
Yeah.
And FDLE with Jack didn't want to do it.
So in terms of offers in this jurisdiction, do they normally flow from the defense to the state?
Both, you can do both. And in fact, that prosecutor, he always wants you to make the offer because he doesn't want to be bidding against himself. And we don't like to make the offer because we might be giving him more than what he's going to offer us.
Right.
It's
How
like,
does Georgia?
it's like Georgia's pretty fair and reasonable, really. She really say, yep, nope. And I've worked out some big cases with Georgia. Another Winchester, Dan Winchester. I don't know if a former commissioner, if you've lived here long enough. I worked out a deal with him, and it was lifetime probation.
Wow.
And people said I was the dumbest lawyer there ever was. He was facing life. He got convicted. I got him life probation, and he's been out probably 20 years. So I don't think it was a bad deal.
Did you hear before the jury selection day, so the last case management, the actual pre-trial hearing, Steve Lincoln was in the room and he was getting his trial date. Stephen Lincoln, he's the guy who shot his roommate, who was 33 years old. He was actually overturned by Everett was the first case and then it got overturned
Oh,
because of
okay.
a conflict.
I'm not familiar with that case.
Oh, yeah, it got overturned because of a conflict and then self-defense, this whole thing. Anyway, this shorter, no offense, but this shorter state attorney was sitting over there and they're like, Everett says, do you have a plea? And this guy goes, life. I almost started the table. Steve Lincoln's like, what? And then he had a really cool attorney with long curly hair and he goes, life is the most they're going to give, but I'm his attorney, so it's going to be some other, he had some specific.
Yeah.
But, so, like Jack Campbell said, some deals are like
Mhm. Oh, yeah, because you don't get death penalty. They take,
You don't get
they
the
take death penalty off the table and they give you life. They do it too. They'll take it off if you agree to get rid of 12 jurors, right? And we're like, no, we're not doing that. Defense got a better chance with 12 jurors
Then they do a bench.
than with 6.
Yeah. Or 6. Oh, that's what they want. They want 6.
Defense did that to me with the FAMU bomber. I don't know if you were here.
Yeah.
I said, how about a deal? They said, he can plead to life, go to trial and get life. I said, what do you think? I think we'll go to trial and get life. And we did. We went to trial and he got life. Yeah.
So let's talk, Charlie having another phone.
Another phone?
Yes. If Rashbaum has it, is he under any kind of obligation to release that phone? Or does he have to be subpoenaed for it?
He'd have to be subpoenaed. I keep hearing this phone because I saw some text or some communication about the phone. Get the phone from Dan. Yeah, I'm sure the state would try to get that subpoena too, or get the phone by it through a subpoena. Dan's not going to volunteer it,
He doesn't have to.
not unless he's subpoenaed. All right, he can't destroy it because you can't destroy evidence.
Can you say, I don't know anything about a phone and still destroy it? Would they do that?
Why would he risk his license for that?
Why would Charlie be interested in a phone now?
Because obviously there's something on that phone that maybe Charlie wants and Dan doesn't. Who knows? Or something's on there. Maybe some text messages or.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
So if you were Donna's attorney, you're not going to be.
I'm not going to be.
If you were, what kind of deal would you present to her, and also maybe try to present to the prosecutor? So maybe in a way that they would wrap up her case. I know they want her to give them Wendy, and give them Wendy. But I mean, as far as like making it appealing to Donna, it's her daughter, and all the family relations. So how would you work that?
You really have no leverage to make a deal with Donna. She's 74 years old. What are you going to say? Give me 15 years instead of life? Or 20 years? And why would Donna do that to her grandchildren and her daughter? I mean, this is the same woman that was going to flee or commit suicide because she's lived a good life. We've traveled, and I've got everything set for my grandkids. Why would I cut a deal? And now she's getting acclimated to the jail. She's probably thinking, well, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But she's only in the county jail. It's not in the prison yet.
But what I wondered was after you were able to get for Brian Winchester is, you know,
Completely different. He was only like I think he was like 40, 42, you know?
But do you not think with the deal that the state gave on Winchester?
They didn't give it. They didn't give that deal.
You got it?
I stole that.
Okay.
I hate to say I stole it, but they didn't realize what they were signing, right? You know, and once they signed that, I went and told my client, you're great. You're good. You tell them everything. You tell them if you shoplifted bubble gum, you're covered. And it got to the point where they didn't even know it was a good deal. They wanted to get another lawyer to come look at this deal that I wrote to see if I knew what I was doing. And the lawyer was a very experienced lawyer and said, you take that shit, you take it now, and you do it. So even when you get a client a good deal, they don't always trust you, right? They don't always trust you because they always think they're walking home. They all think they're going to win. The jury's going to buy their story, you know. Trust me, I've heard some things, and I said, listen, if you think I believe that, why would you want me to be your lawyer?
But you don't think the state you don't think the state would maybe give Donna?
Okay, so say you're Georgia and you're Jack. Okay, you're Jack Campbell and you're Georgia. What are we going to offer Donna? Time served?
No, I'm just.
For a murder? No way. She ain't getting no time served. 5 years? What is she going to have to give?
Wendy.
Okay, and what evidence?
maybe only
What independent evidence does she have that we can verify? That we don't just rely on her testimony, that we're assured of the conviction that she has. Now, if she has something, now you're talking something different.
Right.
But if just her testimony, she's better than Katherine because she hasn't committed perjury 3 times or 2 times.
Right.
Katherine is worthless. But they put her up there anyway because Jack told me later on, he goes, I saw your article. You didn't think we'd call her. He goes, we weren't taking any chances. We were putting her up there because she could talk about the money. So,
You think she was strong with this?
no. No.
Because
She committed perjury 3 times and she lied and said I was innocent. She didn't have anything to do with it.
So how about Charlie? If he comes,
Yeah, but Charlie's coming for a different reason.
what's the reason?
Wasn't this an extortion? Didn't you tell your mother the day of the murder that Katherine came to you and they killed him and that you're paying this money? That's why you talked in code. Isn't that what you told a jury? Now your mom's here talking about something else. Is that true? She's strictly rebuttal.
Okay.
Or she'll be on direct if they find out they're doing this whole a new theory of defense and they can weave it into their case in chief beforehand, right? So that's what the lawyer spoke too soon. In opening, he told the defense, the prosecution,
You told me that, yes.
and I told him why? Because Dan couldn't help it. He couldn't. He got the limelight. He wanted to be Perry Mason in the opening, and he gave up his whole surprise defense. That would have been stronger and better if he wouldn't have. If he would just and then did it in closing. Then Georgia had time maybe to get rebuttal, and timing is everything, right?
Question from the chat and piggybacking on what Katie was saying about Charlie's testimony. How important was Charlie's testimony if they were to just remove him as a witness? How would that have hurt the state's case?
In this case?
Yes.
They don't know yet. So the answer is you don't know. Because you don't know what the problem is yet until, I like to do analogies, right? You don't know what the disease is yet until you get an x-ray. They don't know what problems the defense is going to throw at them until they see their case. And they want to be able to have different alternatives, including calling Charlie to impeach her. Just like they called Wendy to impeach, about her saying, I didn't say that. I didn't say hire a hitman. And it was hearsay, but then they got a witness to come in to impeach her, and that came out before the jury. There's a lot of tricks to get evidence in, and sometimes you get it in the front door, sometimes you get it in the back door. So they're all thinking ahead. I mean, trust me. Dan and them are thinking ahead. They know what's coming. And Georgia kind of knows it, and that's why they want to make sure. That's why they didn't say, we don't need Charlie, we're going to punt. They're not going to do that. Not when you got a first-degree murder case. No way. They'd rather delay it than lose.
Do you think that was Charlie's play
What's that?
to get off, to not be testifying? Do you think that was?
Oh, I don't think it
Charlie's
was his play at all. I think Charlie's saving his own ass.
That's right.
And his lawyer said, you got a good case of ineffective, but if you get up there and testify,
play? So they have to
you
run
might
their,
have to waive that or you lose it.
they have to run their appeals first and then go back and do
Right.
it effective.
You got to do all your appeals. Is there a problem with the trial? Was evidence that was in? Was there insufficient evidence? Any errors? Then, if you lose, then my lawyer was ineffective. I didn't get competent counsel. And that's last. And whoever the judge is will have to have a hearing, and the judge will make that rule.
Oh, it is?
Not an appellate court, then it's just Judge Everett or whoever the judge is. It's hard to get ineffective assistance.
Regarding that, is it true that the appellate lawyer is poring over absolutely every piece of
I'll guarantee you.
absolutely everything, and that's why it's easy that they can throw out something out of 1,000 different angles. You could say this is ineffective. So it's not unusual that his attorney would be saying, "You have a case here. You've got ineffective counsel. We've got something to propose on that." I mean, is it? You couldn't even speculate what that could be, right? Regarding
No,
Marshall.
but-
It could be a million things, right?
It's a funny thing. Most lawyers, trial lawyers, don't realize this. When you are in district court and a trial, you're not only in that courtroom, you're in the appellate courtroom. What that means is, if there's an objection to be made and you don't make it, you waived it. So when you get to the appellate court, the appellate lawyer says, "We had an appeal, but you didn't object, so we waived it." And so you get lawyers that are so concentrated just on the trial that they're not preserving an appeal. And so Michael read the transcripts. They order the transcripts. He's read every minute of the trials. So he knows where the issues are, right?
Do you see any? You don't have to share what they are, but do you see any issues?
I mean, I thought it was a pretty clean trial. And I don't see there was no 404B. There's some issues, some impeachment stuff, but nothing to the degree that they're going to overturn a conviction. And one is always insufficient evidence, right? There's not enough evidence. But when you testify, you waive that because the jury can convict you on credibility alone. So a lot of defendants don't testify because they want to preserve insufficient evidence.
How much is the cost of this appeal?
Oh, that's a great question.
The Huckerman takes credit cards.
Well, no, I take credit cards. I saw you do that. I saw you do that on your show.
Does he take cash?
And we also charge the percentage now
Do you?
for the credit card. We
Yeah.
didn't do that.
We're not eating it.
I never took American Express, and then I said, and we did, and people love doing it. They get points and stuff.
That's
So,
hilarious. But Harvey tries to charge you back.
yeah. I'm sure Mike probably got 200, 250.
Does that include the ineffective counsel?
Probably not. Probably not. That's a separate issue, separate matter.
It's separate. But I thought that.
Everything's
honest,
separate.
I was so impressed with her.
She was texting my associate when they were filing it. She's good friends with my associate. Yeah.
Question from Northern California. Will Grandma Gotti turn on Wendy and Charlie?
What's that?
What's the likelihood of Grandma Gotti turning on Donna, aka Donna, turn on Wendy and Charlie?
Well, she can't turn on Charlie because the state doesn't care. They got a conviction. They're not worried about that conviction. So they don't care about that. Now, Wendy, they'd be interested. Harvey, they'd be interested. And anybody else out there that might have been involved. So could Donna I don't know if she can forfeit assets. Usually, I don't think this crime has forfeitable assets. But the federal government will give you credit if you forfeit assets,
What
right?
does that mean, Tim?
Okay, so there's forfeiture. Like P. Diddy has a forfeiture in his indictment. And so what the government is doing, they're forfeiting things that were two-way. One is proceeds and one is facilitation. Proceeds means you sell drugs, we're going to take all the money you earned. Facilitation means that truck that you drove the drugs in, we're going to take that because that helped facilitate, so we're going to take that truck too. So that's why drug dealers rent cars. we're gonna take that because that helped facilitate, so we're gonna take that truck too. So that's why drug dealers rent cars and they don't have cars in their name that they own because it's gonna be forfeited. So criminals get smart and they lease cars, rent cars, and then cops figured that out. So now they know rental cars have a certain tag. So when they see rental cars going down the road at suspicious hours by a single male, it's a game. I shouldn't say it's a game. It's just the trade.
And rental cars weren't always marked either, were they?
Right.
I think I kind of remember years ago that came into effect.
Right. Because the cops want to know
Because
who's
of
got a
that.
rental. Yeah. Because they were all using rental cars.
Why did they go after Charlie for restitution?
I don't know. That's like
It's not
FaceTime.
normal.
I learned from FBI, FaceTime. If you have a Title III wire, you got everything, you can get everything. If you're talking on a FaceTime, they can't record it. They can't get it. I told my client that one time, and now every time he calls me, it's FaceTime. I mean, so they adapt. They're like chameleons. They're adapt. So, and every time I knew it was him because it's FaceTime. Why you fake? You told me that.
About Judge Everett ordering the expenses to go to.
Yeah.
Some people have said it goes to Donna, some people have said it goes to Rashford.
No, it goes to Donna.
It goes to Donna.
Not the,
And
no.
would that-
He would have to hold him in contempt and fine him
Okay,
to go to Dan.
and would Charlie's transport expenses be included?
Sure. I think it's going to be probably $30,000 or $40,000 for all. You're talking about all the witnesses, subpoenaing them, reserving the courtroom, and I think Everett's going to hit him with everything.
Or Charlie's cost to move from Columbia to South Dakota was $91.77. Because it's in the contract.
9,000?
$9,177. That's what Gun Girls got.
Yeah, they don't like, and that's an expense we don't see. But
So,
Jack's
yeah,
got to
you
deal
look
with
it
it.
up in
Yeah.
the vendor contract.
Oh, it's expensive.
So say it's.
Katie got shipped here.
But why is it so much? Because
Lewis
of
was federal. Federal
Oh,
charge
federal charges.
from Mariana.
Why does a hammer cost $10,000 for the government?
But all of those
3 hours,
they had flights booked for witnesses that had to be canceled.
A lot of witnesses.
Hotels.
Hotel.
Assuming that a deal would come from the defense side, how do you think it would come about? Like, how do you show your hand? Like,
No,
how do you go about it going, this is what I've got, what will you give, what's that dance like? Because I don't think they're gonna come to Charlie or Donna.
No.
So how do you as an attorney dance?
So he'll call it, hey, can we meet? And they'll go meet, and they'll start talking. Same stupid junior high thing.
But he knows now, he's talked to his client.
He's talked to his client, he's got an
And he knows what
idea.
he has to
Well,
get.
he's got an idea of what he knows. And so you always try to go low. It's like a car salesman, right? He's up here, you're there, you go low, he goes high, you get in the middle. So you kind of know what your client will take. So you start off lower, then the state moves a little bit. Then you got to go back to your client and you say, hey, listen.
But you're like, I've got what?
But
You tell
I
them?
know, but then Georgia will say, okay.
Because that's what she's
He'll say,
like.
come back with a deal that your client will take, and I'm not going to the victim's family unless your client's willing to take it, because I'm not going to sell equity if we're going to keep dancing. Finally, you got to decide if you're going to prom.
So
You tell your client, you're taking this deal. If they get it, we're taking it. Okay, and it usually works
But
out.
your client hasn't necessarily confessed to you yet.
They never do.
They never. But my it's like, how do you get it to go? Like you're like, I think we have. So it's a dance really until.
Well, the client knows and realizes now, you get me close to where I'm at, we'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. Safe travel.
How much for this?
I'm not getting paid. I get paid the same I get on STS.
Your commentary on Tuesday on STS was amazing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I
you
appreciate that.
explained everything so.
Great. I appreciate that. Safe travel.
speaking of that, I'm still back on. So, like, I'm gonna get into a little psychology, because I know you haven't played that. So, let's say, using Donna, if you're stepping into the Alex Morris office,
How you view it?
Good.
Are they doing good?
Good, yeah.
Okay.
So let's say you're stepping in the Alex Morris position here. And Donna, we kind of have a little read on Donna's psychology here.
Yes.
And if if you start talking to her about potentially a deal, and she starts saying, but Dan assured me that I was going to get off, but Dan promised me and all that, how do you work with her?
You tell her Dan's not here. Dan's gone. I'm all you got. I'm all you got. I'm your guy.
What if she keeps at that, like trying to manipulate you like that?
They do.
She,
You just shut them down.
you just keep.
Oh, trust me, I've walked
been
out.
there.
I've told them get out of my office. I'm like, you can hire another lawyer.
Okay.
I'll be glad to withdraw. Go find someone. Oh, no, I want you. Like, wow. I've done what I can do.
Would you anticipate that with Donna?
No. I think Donna's gotten realization now. She knows she's screwed.
At Leon County, are you in person or are you behind the Zoom?
You can do both, but you don't do Zoom. There's a glass.
You know what I mean?
But you can do it. It's called a contact visit or non-contact. I don't really like doing non-contacts because it's by phone, and I know that they're recording. I know they can hear it. Because one time I told an inmate, my client, that possibly got a dick for a prosecutor. 3 weeks later, oh, so I'm the dick? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So I knew you were listening. I actually, I actually helped him get a job, a judgeship through the governor later, and he invited me to his investiture. So I guess I made up for it.
Can we look forward with everything that strangely happens to you, with your legal perspective in North Georgia? How does everything that transpired around counsel, around Charlie, around waiver of privilege, how does that affect your mindset, game plan, changes going forward?
I think Georgia's going to come in October, or Sarah, and have a specific delineated thing that needs to be done with case law, and that maybe we need to have Alex off because this could be a problem. I work at the U.S. When I was a federal prosecutor, she was there.
I typed letters, attention, and you were safe, Timothy JANSEN.
Did I respond to him?
No.
Not to me.
I mean, the Markels are crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, justice is slow, but it's effective. It's just
Another
slow.
question from Northern California,
What part of Northern California?
Napa Valley.
Oh, wonderful. I'm having some wine.
Should Donna hire Jose Baez? You almost choked on your wine.
I did. That's up to Donna. I don't really know him personally. He got lucky on one trial in Orlando. And that's sometimes, you win a case when you shouldn't win, and it makes you look great, right? And sometimes you got a great lawyer, but the facts are terrible and you lose, and it makes the lawyer look bad, right? So it's one case doesn't make or break you. But I don't know. He's got his hands full in the case in Jacksonville, which I think he's going to lose that case. That looks like an ironclad case. What's that, Garber case? Yeah, he's making plenty of money on that case. So I doubt he wants to come here and do that.
Let's go hear about the jury pool.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
is this affecting the jury pool since we've had so many trials here in Tallahassee with the same case, and then now these jurors that showed up have been released for what, 2 years?
Yeah, at least 2 years.
Yes.
Only the first batch.
Oh.
Well, you know what? The second batch came at 2 o'clock, so if they show up and they're released, they're released. So I don't know how many was in each one. There was waves, I think maybe 200 or maybe in each one. But we have people moving to Tallahassee all the time. And you'd be amazed how many come here that don't know shit about this case. It's been 10 years. And people don't read the newspapers anymore. And don't tell the Democrat. Everybody reads the newspapers and watches online. So they'll be able to find some, I think. The last trial that got moved out of Tallahassee, the FAMU bombing case. I did. I moved because they were going to close FAMU. And Reverend Jackson came here. And the governor said, we got the guy. I mean, it's pretty sad. The governor is saying your client, Pensacola. I had a choice between Pensacola and Gainesville. I picked the wrong place. Should have picked Gainesville. Pensacola is very conservative. No crimes committed over there. They're all retired military. So, any more comments?
If you were prosecutor, would your theory have been in the beginning to arrest all of them and see where the chips fall? Or is this the best case scenario?
Well, the investigator told me what they wanted to do. And I would have agreed with that. And that was they were going to have Georgia go to Sigfredo, give him 5 minutes in a room that she can cut you a deal. You can't make a phone call, you can't leave. You're going to tell us everything you know, or the deal's off the table. And apparently the elected state attorney, Willie Meggs, said no. Just go interview him. Well, you interview him, they lawyered up, and they all lawyered up, and it kind of hurt the case. I don't know if they were ready to try them all at that time, and that would have been a lot to try all those people. That trial could have taken a while. They may not have been as effective because they have all these different defendants to focus on. It actually ended up being pretty good the way it worked. Now they can focus on individual Charlie and now Donna, so that's helped. But you get like what would that be, 6 people in there? 6 different lawyers, 12 different lawyers. That's a lot of work.
It is a lot. I was thinking.
That's a lot for a jury.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking.
And then you might have what's called brutal problems. And that's where some evidence is admissible against one, but not against others. And then you got to get either a separate jury, and they've done that. Well, they have trials with 2 different juries, and they bring them in and bring evidence. You know,
But I was thinking more along with.
that's what's going to happen in Jackson.
With the Wendy, Donna, or the Charlie episode, not with the Katie, Sigfredo, Luis thing, but I was wondering would
Well,
that
they want to call Wendy against Donna.
and there's just no
And
other
if
way.
Wendy's a defendant, you can't make her testify.
So there's no other way. There's
No.
no other way to
No.
do this.
No,
Okay.
there's no really other way.
Okay.
Now, after Donna's trial, then, they can charge whoever they got left to charge.
Okay.
I mean, they thought of they know what they're doing. Even as complicated as it is, they've done a pretty good job singly prosecuting people.
I would love to know what you don't know about all these trials, a detail, something that you're interested in that fascinates you that we haven't learned, uncovered, confirmed, or denied yet.
I'd like to know how much they got paid, the lawyers. I'd love to know how much Dan got paid. I'd love to know how much Alex is getting paid.
Do you have a guess?
I would think that Dan got at least $1 million. And I'm thinking that Alex probably got $350,000.
For just Donna.
Yeah.
For just Donna?
Still don't think, why would they hire that Gerstein and Barrett?
I don't know who
I mean,
Gerstein.
that was who they charged the Amex. So in May of 2016.
Who is they?
Harvey and Donna
Yeah.
hired Gerstein and Barrett.
Yeah.
Elon Barrett, Elan, is on the witness list.
Okay.
He was the one that they charged $20,000. It was a subpoena that got handed to him during that.
They charged
whole time.
$20,000 for what?
To represent him for the subpoena. It could be paid in 2 installments, 10 and 10.
Oh, because they got a subpoena.
Right.
Yeah, that's okay.
But then they were like, here's $10,000, and then they're like, no, we're not paying you, and they charged it back on the Amex, and then they got sued for $10,000. But then after that, they hired Rashbaum.
Yeah. So if you came to me and you got subpoenaed, I would say $20,000. Take care of it. That's a fair fee. I mean, you might not think
Is
it
it
is.
though?
Fair to me.
For you.
I remember I had a guy that got subpoenaed and goes, "You get me out of this, I'll pay you $5,000." Okay. Pay me the $5,000. I made a phone call. I got him out of it. That's it. I said, I did what you told me to. I got you out of it.
So yeah.
Because that's a lot of money. I said, I knew who to call. You're not always paying for what you do. You're paying for the connection, reputation, and how to handle it.
But isn't that the mistake then at the end, is using the Miami field in Tallahassee?
They felt comfortable. I truly believe they think we're a bunch of hillbilly rednecks up here that we don't have lawyers that can try the case, that they're so smart that they're going to hoodwink us, and that they don't know, they don't need to have someone that knows the jury pool, knows the judges, knows the officers, the little things like the locations. You know, I don't think Dan really knew the locations. I don't think Dan understood her trip. I don't think he realized how out of the way it was, and that how she would have been able to see the house from. I mean, you won't know that. I do that on big cases. I go to every crime scene, and I've done it multiple times, and I've seen things at a crime scene that the police report, the officer couldn't have seen it. And I've cross-examined them in trials, and they look foolish. So if you don't go to the crime scene, you're really not being a thorough lawyer.
So I'm going to take you into the human being part.
Here we go.
Not in the lawyer part, the human being part. And like, when did you, as a human, as Tim Jansen, first find out about this crime? Had you ever heard of Dan Markel before? You know, how did that hit you as a human being? And what grabbed you to get so interested in covering this case?
So I never met Dan personally. I knew who he was. I knew he was involved with the criminal defense lawyers. I knew he was a professor, but I didn't go to school there. I went to the other school down south. So, I didn't know him personally. I knew the street, Benton, because my wife, when we were dating, lived on Trescott. And so when I knew the murder, and I knew people that lived on Trescott and Benton, and I knew that neighborhood is a very affluent neighborhood. Crime doesn't occur there. And the way it happened, it was outrageous. And then people start putting two and two together, people who knew him, and then it started to be really interesting. Who committed this crime, how it was done. And then I knew Pat Sanford. I played baseball with him. I knew he was on the case. I had other cases with Craig Eisen. And so we had built a friendship up. And so that made it interesting in Tallahassee, you know. And then when you found out how they pieced the crime together, because you're always like, as much as I was a federal prosecutor, I always marvel at some of the evidence they had. Like in the FAMU bombing case, okay, the killer or the bomber made phone call from they used to have payphones, right? And so he made a phone call from a payphone. And so the FBI flew the FBI plane here, and they took the entire phone off the wall, and they fingerprinted every coin in the machine. Wow. Every one. When I saw that report, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. His fingerprint wasn't on it, but.
In terms of covering this case, did you start with the Democrat? How did Joel find you?
You know, I don't. I think she claims that she.
Yeah.
Well, she did. I don't know.
I did.
I don't.
Yeah,
Monica.
I don't remember.
Say hi, Monica.
How long ago I've been doing it now. But it's been several years, I think.
We don't even remember anything about this case without being involved with it.
I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I know Monica. How long have we known each other?
20, 30 years.
I sat with Monica in Charlie's verdict. I was having lunch with Monica when the verdict came in for Charlie, and we sat together.
She had to pick up the tab, right?
So it's been interesting. It's been interesting. When I did Nancy Grace, she flew me to New York, actually. And I had another case with her because it was a shooting at the federal prison many years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that was my client. He was a prison guard, and he shot and killed the people. And so I was doing a live with Nancy. So Nancy said, okay, this is what I'm going to ask you. I'm like, okay, great. So then when we went live, she was like, how could you represent this no good lying son of a bitch? I'm like, Jesus Christ, Nancy. So I said, well, Nancy, you know, he was a military veteran with no prior record, so it's alarming to everyone. So when I went to the show on this case, I met her before the show. I said, Nancy, you remember 17 years ago? She goes, no, what? Do you remember that shooting? And she goes, how did I treat you? Horribly. She goes, what did I do? Well, you told me, and then she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. And she laughs about it. And then, so I did the show, and she goes, you know, Tim, it's so nice to have someone that knows this case. Instead of some talking head that doesn't know anything about the case. You're always welcome. And she always calls me now. Now I'm doing P. Diddy. And it's funny when we were trying to buy a car for my wife. and Nancy's calling me all the time. I go, I gotta go. She goes, I'm trying to buy a car. I got Nancy Grace here. So, but.
Negotiation.
Answering this question, but how has covering this case changed your life?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's interesting. I got more involved because I had a bike accident, right? And I didn't plan on the bike accident because I was supposed to give my father-in-law's eulogy 2 days after my bike accident in Massachusetts. And I said, can I fly? They said, you're not flying anywhere. You're not even leaving this hospital. So I just happened to be available, right? I was home in a hospital bed. And so the trial just happened to be starting. So the Democrat says, hey, do you want to do daily analysis? I'd never done it before. And my daughter and my wife always said, you should write a book. You know, you're really good at this. I'm like, no, not really. And so I actually wrote it from my phone in a hospital. The articles you see, I write from my phone.
Nice. Wow.
And it's been great. It's a different aspect than I ever tried to explain it to people. And it's been kind of neat for me because you're breaking it down now that people can understand. And then going on the show with Joel's great, and Steve's great. I was seeing people go on that had no idea what they were talking about. And people were saying this or saying that. I'm like, that's not how it really works. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then that's not the fact. So I thought if I could help make it real, make it factual, and then tell you what as lawyers behind the scenes, this is what's really happening. And it was easy since I know all the players. So when I did the daily, I knew all the lawyers walking in. I knew the judges. And it was easy. It's not like it requires a lot of preparation, right? Somehow I got a lot of crazy information in my head.
Are you recognized around town? I mean, I know you.
I do.
Yeah.
I was in. My wife loves home goods, so I go to the cooking section, and this lady was staring at me, and I'm like, "Big courtroom show." She goes, I'm juror number 7 in the McDonald trial. I'm like, really? So I start talking to her. And someone called her. I don't know, was her daughter. Hold on, I'm talking to Tim Jansen. And her husband, what did he do? Oh, he does Christmas decorations. So they were trying to get a job for my wife. And so I said, well, you want to come on and do a show? She goes, I'd love to. So, yeah, people recognize me, see me. They come in and they'll say something. But a lot of times, more likely, I've been doing this 30 years as a defense lawyer. People, hey, Mr. Jansen, my daughter, what did they do? What did they do? If they ever say Mr. Jansen, they're definitely a client, right?
Question from the chat. Rosemary Romero asks, who do we see in the next arrest? Do we see Harvey getting charged and arrested?
We've got Donna. We got to focus on Donna. I don't think anybody's getting arrested until Donna is done because they need her to be a witness. So unfortunately, and I don't see this trial until March or April. Now, if Alex gets kicked off, it may not be to the end of the
Question. What are the odds we see Marisol Descalzo back with Donna?
I think I saw her in the court that day when she was doing her dress rehearsal.
Really?
It looked like her in the elevator. And I can't swear to it. And I told Joel, I said, I think that's her. But
The long hair.
But she does white collar healthcare. She doesn't, those are completely, huh? Well,
She
I
can
mean,
work on
those
the
are
money
different,
trail.
completely different cases. You know, we in our trade call them silk stocking lawyers because they work in the big fancy firms. They got the big fancy stuff, 90 paralegals, and they don't go to trial that often. They're pushing paper and billing stuff. You get the lawyers in the trenches, like Alex, a lawyer in the trenches. You're going up there trying cases. You're trying DUIs, you're trying burglaries, murder, rape, date rape. Those are lawyers in the trenches. Those are real trial lawyers. A lot of PI lawyers don't go to trial. Very rare. Criminal lawyers go to trial. A lot. And white-collar lawyers, they can do them, but they're not doing these kind of murder, violent cases. So they're different, right? And there's a skill to do white-collar, too. I mean, they're really skillful because you got corporations hiring to represent employees. Then you got conflicts there, and you got joint defense agreements.
So is a person, not like the question,
So as a person who has longevity in this community, who's connected to those groups in this community, maybe to you, Monica, as well, do you think that this case has altered the fabric of Tallahassee in any way?
I think it has unfortunately, Tallahassee's been known for murder, okay? It's a sleepy little town. Yeah, we have crappy airport. You gotta go to Atlanta to get anywhere. Shopping is horrible. You gotta go out of town. But we've had a lot of high-profile murders. Remember Ted Bundy at FSU. We had a shooting at a yoga where we killed people. We had the Brian Winchester murder case. Unfortunately, Tallahassee's had a lot of murders. And we've had the Hilton murder case. We've got this murder case. Cases that have made national news. And it's not because it's a violent town. This permeated because of where it took place and who was murdered. And that's sad, right? We shouldn't say it's expected on the south side or someone who's poor. This hit a professor in a very wealthy neighborhood and it got close to us, the majority of the people. If it could happen to that person, it can happen to anybody in this room. I'm not just wrong on the wrong side of town, the wrong place. The guy was in his house.
Have you ever felt unsafe or uncomfortable
Sure.
speaking out?
When I was a federal prosecutor, I carried a gun. And I was kind of threatened one time, in a restroom and the guy said, "Hey, Mr. Prosecutor." And luckily, I went outside and there was an EEA agent outside, and they had him against the wall rather quickly. And I carried a firearm, and sometimes I do, some cases. I had to get an armed escort into court in Wakulla recently because the family was not happy and they were making threats. So the sheriff assigned a detective to me and my investigator, Monica. And this is a funny story. So Monica, I said, "We're going to go together, Monica." She goes, "Okay." She picks me up. She goes, "It's Chanel. If I'm dying in Chanel." I couldn't help but laugh. It was a nice Chanel coat. But yeah, sometimes the family, And I have a firearm at the office, and I had a couple clients that, I've got it readily available because you never know. If I was a family lawyer, I'd feel more danger because it's a lot more dangerous. You got good people making bad decisions. I've got bad people trying to make good decisions. And you take their dog, you take their house, or your kids, someone can get hurt. Most lawyers get killed in family law cases. Yeah, most of them. If you see a lawyer getting shot, it's usually a family law case. That was violent. Look at this. Look at this.
That large. It was like 8 inches long.
Yeah.
And Charlie was sitting there smirking, and she's trying to find.
I remember family lawyers get paid by the hour.
He was like,
Paid by the hour.
So Tim, how could we see you in action in a courtroom? Is there any footage?
Do you have any cases going on?
I did. I have
on
it.
YouTube?
I did on Court TV. Corey Fuller trial. If you go back and look,
Okay, it's in the archives?
there is it. Yeah.
And you were defending?
It was an armed gambling case. Court TV, and the people watching the TV said 80% guilty. Right? And they do a poll, 80%. Jury came back in 15 minutes, not guilty.
So where's Corey
Corey
Fuller
Fuller.
now?
He's here. And every time the show airs, he's a coach at FSU.
Oh.
So what is
He
your-
wants me to pay him because it's airing. And I said, I don't control Court TV. He goes, "You get free rep." He calls me all the time for representation.
So what would you say your strength is in the courtroom?
I'm pretty good in closing, and I get along with jurors. They like me. They trust me, and
Do you do your own jury selection?
of course. When my youngest was born, we went to the hospital, and the lady goes, "Hey, Mr. JANSEN." I go, "Oh, God." I hope there's a client that's going to help my wife. "You don't recognize me?" "No, I was on your jury." "Oh, okay. You're a great lawyer. But your client was guilty as shit." I'm like, "Okay, are we good?" "Oh, we're good." My wife was really nervous. Really nervous.
So what would be a jury that you would select for
It depends on each case.
Donna?
One thing I've learned is that women judge other women much more harshly than men do. Much more harshly. And I had a case one time where my client, he wasn't the greatest client. My whole office hated him. And I blocked the guy, and they were so mad. They were hoping I'd lose. And he was a jerk, complete jerk. And the victim came into court with stilettos, with a really short skirt, and dressed totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. And I just knew, and the women on the jury judged her harsh. And the guys liked her because she was very attractive. But the women judge women other harshly. You know, you see a woman walk by, and this is probably not. A guy will say, "Man, she's hot." Another woman, "Oh, she's old." Right? The way we look at things and the way women look at it are completely different.
Were you surprised with the jury for Charlie that it came back?
I never.
2.5 hours?
I think I predicted longer, and I was kind of. No, I did predict OJ right on time. That was the first case I ever did any analysis. And they said, "Why did you think that?" I said, "Well, when they came back and asked how long before the limo driver got there, they just needed some reason to show that he couldn't have cleaned up, and that's the reason they're going to vote not guilty." Because they came back and said he was there like within 40 minutes, the limo driver picked him up. Well, there's no way he could have cleaned up all the blood and everything in the house if he had done it. And they made a mistake. They should have said he had help, and someone else helped him. They tried to say only he did it, so they kind of limited their prosecution. Right? Someone had to help clean up.
I think we might be starting to kind of clean up in here.
Okay.
So we might even wrap up. Any other questions for Tim?
Anything else?
Well, I just had one, based on what you were saying about how would you pick a jury to put on. You know, when she was crying, I actually felt badly for her for a little bit. Because she just she looked broken, and she looked like a sad old lady. And then I had to remind myself what she did and what a tough as nails woman she used to be. I don't know, maybe it's still under there. I don't know if you saw her as broken.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. She had the breakup with Dan. That's why she was crying. Yeah. I think. What do you think? Older jurors in this case?
I don't know.
If you were an older juror, would you think that'd be better than a younger juror?
I think, like you said, men, they're probably going to try to stack it with men.
You see grandma in this case, my grandmother, they're going to convict her.
Yeah.
They need a younger jury that can't imagine that a grandmother would do this.
Yeah.
Well, and a younger juror's been so much on their phones, they don't have any idea what's happening here.
Well, Georgia and Sarah bring that out right front and center. Hey, I know what she looks like, but this isn't.
Oh, sure. Oh, they're going to.
There's a subtle way to do that.
Sarah is a very talented lawyer.
Yeah.
She's she's a really real person, and people cling to her and they trust her. Georgia's much more calm and cold, and she doesn't have, I wouldn't say that, but it's just two different people.
Cold
You like Sarah. Sarah's wonderful.
Yeah.
She's nice, and people believe her. That's why she really does well on trial. Georgia's just iron cold.
Yeah.
She's just not going to give you a time of day, and you're not going to frazzle her, and she's going to keep marching her thing and make you look like a fool. So they're a good team.
But let's hope the evidence is there.
And Chris Corbett's a good witness.
Yeah.
Very good witness. I've cross-examined him before. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. He's good. You want to get him off the stand as quick as possible. He never knows. Who?
Very old financial.
Oh, yeah.
They were going to stipulate for her. I didn't think she was coming in.
They made. Sanford was a good agent. Good witness. They didn't call Craig Ice the last trial. I didn't see Craig.
She had surgery or something.
Oh. If you don't know him, he's a really funny guy. Really funny guy. I had a law student that shot another roommate because he threw water on him. And there was a third roommate in the house. And he said he didn't hear the gunshot. So they were interviewing that third roommate. He had him handcuffed to the chair. So I said, Craig, when's the last time you handcuffed a witness to the chair? He goes, oh, you saw that? That guy's lying like shit. He didn't hear the gunshot in my ass. I wasn't going to let him out of that chair until he told me the truth. But the guy never did tell the truth. He said he didn't hear it.
She did that with Lindy.
Well, he kind of had her in there. He's funny guy.
Yeah. Do you think he was bullied in Wendy in the interview?
No.
You don't think so?
They try to get him to talk. That's what their job is, get him to talk. Get him open and talk to him. Don't press him because you press
She
him.
gets flat, but I think he didn't fight. I don't think he was totally buying her.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's not buying her. He was
She
a
was at
homicide.
Mosaic so quickly.
That was a good question. They probably ran the tag.
They pinged
They dropped the
the
line.
They pinged exactly the homicide.
Yeah, they probably got Craig Ice.
I thought maybe when they saw her vehicle, someone could have like basically go follow her.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But you know, Heart and Soul is,
I know.
that's
it
where
was
Mosaic was. And we did the show there at the very
Which I
place.
thought was very funny.
And she was drinking Bullet. Bullet bourbon.
Really?
So
She
when-
doesn't drink.
Yeah, well, when Steve and Joel came to my house at the trial last time, they brought me Bullet bourbon.
I did that.
They did. And Fancy came over, it was pretty funny. It's been wonderful getting to meet them and meeting all you all. That, you know, I probably would never meet you unless someone got in trouble. We'll keep the light on.
I found Tim Jansen, I was arrested, and he was my attorney, but he was on the yellow pages, and I was like, oh, he has a full page, I'm going in. And that's how I got
Back then, that was the thing to do.
He had a full page, and I was like, that's.
What
my
year
guy.
was that?
03.
Oh, that's long. I had a guy come in this year, and he gave me his name, and I said, I had a client like that. Oh, that was me. That was 29 years ago.
Wow.
29 years ago. He goes, I said, you don't look different at all. You look the same you did 29 years ago. But 29 years
But I figured anybody who could afford a full page had to be my attorney because.
it wasn't cheap, trust me.
No, it's not. I believe in spending money to get it.
You spend money to make money.
Right.
That's right. Same.
I think we a little thing, not, when when they went to the restaurant to get her, that they didn't tell her anything, how did they pick her up?
They don't.
What did they say?
They want her to talk. You need to come with us. We got something. They always want you to talk. What they hate is when you call a lawyer. They hate when you call.
She wasn't
Why
in
didn't she call me? Because she knew.
She said, that was playing.
The
plan was
worst lawyers are lawyers, right? And the worst doctors are terrible too. You ever see a doctor eating shit, smoking, drinking they shouldn't be doing, telling you what to do?
Yeah.
Lawyers are the same. They think they can talk their way out of it. Politicians are the worst because they really think they can talk their way out of it, and they always they end up hurting themselves. She wasn't really a practicing lawyer. I mean, not a criminal. So she didn't even know what was it she didn't know.
Contempt of court.
She didn't know what contempt of court was. That's not a practicing lawyer. And she was a professor. You know what we say about professors? Those that do, those that don't teach.
Except for Dan Markel.
Well, no, he didn't want to practice. He didn't want to practice.
Oh, poor Joe.
Yes.
Have you been following the Soto trial in Orlando? Stephen Stearns and Jen Soto with the.
Yes, I have. I've done many shows on that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you done shows on that. Because
Yeah.
I was interested, well, I guess I'll have to catch your shows. because
The wife, the mom.
Yeah, because
Didn't they charge you with something recently?
no, they haven't charged me. But it's real interesting because that balance, you know.
The question is, who drove that second car to the same crime scene, that same route? Because his car got a flat or something, so the other car went the exact same route where the body was found.
Well, they were
Was he
saying-
driving or was she driving?
They were staying in a hotel because they wanted to collect evidence at the townhouse. So they made her and him stay in the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And then he took off in the middle of the night.
The claim is that when she got in her car the next morning, she says, did you take my car to see this?
Yeah. I mean,
Whether this is true.
Something, either she was, well,
She had
any
to know
mom
she-
that would let her daughter sleep with a man like that that's just not,
She was
that's
a
terrible.
drug addict, and all you heard about
No,
it. I
drug
can't
addict.
imagine. Blah, 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 you know.
What was it? She was like 12, sleeping with a grown man in the same bed?
Since she was 6 years old. He was
They're not, well, I mean, they're not related.
Yeah, What is it?
You know,
Said she was about sex. They don't
The temptation gets a lot of people.
But how do you, a mother, how do you not know, like, there has to be a change in your daughter? You know what I mean? Like,
I just think she's.
There's no test to be a mother, right? All you gotta do is drink too much wine and you become a mother. Right? You gotta get a driver's license, you gotta take a test. I see it all the time, they're terrible parents. Yeah, but there's no test to be a parent. You only gotta do one thing to become a parent. Some are good parents, some are bad parents.
yeah, there's a lot of, they do a lot of interviews with her,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are coming out now on video.
So has everybody gone to the trial?
That one?
No, this one.
This,
Yeah.
Well, you know, the courtroom's open, you can go to any hearings, and there's plenty of room.
Unless you're at 3B.
Yeah, that was a dumb motion. That was a dumb motion.
One more question. They want to know if you're going to cover the Brightigan case.
That's the one in Jacksonville,
Yes.
right? Yeah, it was supposed to, yeah. In fact, Joel wants us to go over there for that. So we might.
Wonderful. So is everyone good? Everyone got their question? Thank you, Tim, for being here. Cheers. Cheers to everyone who came to the trial and came to this event.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for getting me
Tim.
involved. I
Thank
wouldn't-
you.